Hi everyone, welcome to Campbell's Hump Middle School distance learning tutorial. In this episode, I'm going to be going over just a couple minutes of the very basic operations of TinkerCAD. This video is aimed at primarily 5th grade students who've never used this before. So if that's you, here we go. Once you've logged into TinkerCAD and you've gone through the introductory tutorials, you're going to end up on this page. All right, this page is called your dashboard, and you will probably not have any of these little tiles right here because you haven't designed anything yet. Now, if you have, maybe you have a couple things right here, but don't worry if it's a little bit more empty than mine. But the fun really begins when you come over here with your mouse and you click on Create New Design. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. And what that's going to do is this is going to open up a new design page for me. A couple basic pieces of vocabulary that we need to wrap our heads around right off the bat. All right, this blue piece of graph paper right here is called the work plane. The work plane is where the action happens. All right, if you want to consider that kind of like the workbench in the shop or your tabletop, that's where you're going to build things. The one key thing to remember about the work plane is that your objects, whatever you build, it has to be on the work plane, not floating above it and not floating below it. And I'll talk to you guys about what that means in just a second. All right, so that's the work plane. Let's go over here to the left. Okay, I have control over here, this box right here. I can left click, or on your Chromebook, you can click on your trackpad, grab a hold, and you can change the rotation or the view of your object right here. If you get all turned around topsy-turvy, you're not really sure what you're looking at, you can come down this row right here, and you can always click on the home button to bring you right back to your home view. Okay, you have some zooming tools here to zoom in and zoom out. These other tools I'm going to talk about in another tutorial, but for now, let's just worry about changing your view, getting back home, and zooming in and zooming out. All right. A couple other basic controls. Over here I have a menu of shapes. In order to grab onto these shapes and bring them out onto your work plane, you're going to click on them and simply drag them out. Every shape has these white boxes that come with it. These white boxes are the tools that I'm going to use to adjust the shape of my selected object here. So if I click and drag on a corner, it's going to do what you think it ought to do. It's going to change size in that regard. If I click this one right here, it's going to grow. And this gets really interesting when I can actually take a view of it around the edge. Okay, so that's going to grow. Now, you're going to notice that you also have this black cone on top of every object. This cone allows you to raise things and lower things, and it even allows you to plunge them right through the work plane back down to the bottom. Here's the key thing to remember. If you're going to be raising and lowering things, you want to remember one keyboard shortcut, and that keyboard shortcut is simply the letter D. So with the object selected, I'm going to press D, and that's going to bring it right back down onto the work plane. Okay, that's an important thing to remember. Okay, so I'm going to click Home. Oh, incidentally, to delete an object, if it's selected, two ways. You can select it and press the trash can up here, or you can just press delete on your keyboard. Okay. I want to go over two more things with you guys, and then that's going to do it for this tutorial. Okay. First thing, I want to teach you guys how to group two objects together. Okay, so I'm going to have one object here, and say I want this box to be about that big, and then I want to include a cylinder on top of this shape right here. So I am going to raise the cylinder up using my cone tool, and then I'm simply going to drag it into my box right here. Okay. So basically I'm kind of creating, I don't know, like call it a little push button. All right. But here's the thing. This is a critical piece of TinkerCAD that's important to remember. Right now I have two independent shapes, right? I have this box and I have the cylinder. Okay. But in order to treat these as one object, I need to do what's called grouping them. To group, it's pretty straightforward. I'm just going to draw a box, left click, and draw a box around these two. You're selecting the two shapes. And then you're going to come over here. This is your grouping tool. Click that. And now these things are going to travel as one shape. Now it's important to remember you can always ungroup things by using this tool right here. Ungroup. And now I've got access to these individual shapes again. Okay. Now, let's take that a step further. Now let's say I want this cylinder right here to actually create the negative space of itself inside of this box. Right? The negative space of itself. So the opposite of a cylinder is the negative space of the cylinder. So what I'm going to do now with the cylinder selected, I'm going to go up to Hole, And now I'm going to draw a box around the two of these. I'm going to group them again. And look at that. Now I can make that hole go all the way through the bottom if I simply make this, whoops, let me get onto my cylinder here. I'm going to make this quite tall, and I'm going to use this to plunge it through the bottom. Now check it out. It's coming out the bottom and the top. So now if I group this, now I've got a hole through my shape. Okay, so that's about enough to get you started on TinkerCAD. Okay, we're going to go into dimensioning and aligning and flipping and all sorts of crazy tools like that in the other tutorials, but that's enough to get you started. Okay, to get back to your dashboard, you're going to use your mouse. You're going to come up and click on your multicolored link right there, and that's going to bring you right back to your dashboard. TinkerCAD saves all your stuff automatically for you, so there's no need to worry about it disappearing. All right, okay, that's the intro. Have fun.